I do, Stuart.
Yes, Jenny.
Could you speak about how, like grounding in the, two finger wisps below the navel, grounding there, and how that gives rise to opening the heart, or how it helps to do that? If it does, it feels like it does. So,
Well, a tree needs roots. A flower needs a stem and roots.
mm,
The roots inside a human being are in the chakra right below the navel, what the Japanese call the hara, the Chinese the tatien. And without that inner strength, the heart is kind of like an accordion. It opens and closes, it opens and closes. And there isn't the power inside to sustain that openness. It's like you build a house, you need a foundation. Everything in life is based upon the most basic element. You need a foundation in order to build. If you build a business, you need grounding, you need a foundation in order to do it. And people forget, you understand? People spend, I don't know if this is affecting you, but my computer keeps going on and off and on and off. People say that doesn't affect them.
no, no.
But anyway, look, I mean, I speak about this so much. I'm tired of talking about it. It's just common sense. It really is. If you want to create something, you have to be a master of the craft. You have to really know what you're doing. If everything in nature has roots. Whales go back, salmon go back to the place where they were spawned. Everything has roots. Human beings spend so much time in their heads that they forget about the core of their being. They forget about the very foundation of who they are as human beings. And the only time they seem to go there is if they get very tense. And then people start taking deep breaths, in order to relax themselves. Well, the development of the foundation area in a human being is part and parcel, probably the single most important element of Rudy's meditation practice, because nothing else really works without it. Nothing else can sustain itself if the very core of your being, doesn't exist. So let me look, honestly, it's the first thing he ever taught me. I sat down, he's showing me the exercise. The first thing he ever said is you bring the focal point of your attention to the chakra below the navel. And he understood profoundly that without that grounding, everybody's adrift. Everybody's spaced out. Everybody's living in their heads. Everybody's living in their emotions. And the chaos of the mind, emotions, sexual energy, it really throws the whole system of a human being out of whack. So the key to that is building an inner life from the foundation up, just as you build a building from the foundation up. This way, step by step, you are slowly creating within yourself, a chakra system that is really strong. Now, there are two other elements to this. The first one is that we have to every day deal with living in the world. And all of us, and my thing keeps going back, and I have to find out what this is. The problem, the situation is such that life is so powerful. All the different activities, the politics, the economics, the money, the relationships, all the things that we have to deal with in life, that we're confronted with every single day of our life, is so powerful that most people wind up hiding in a shell. They don't want to be bothered with the intensity of life. And the reason for that is they're not grounded inside. You need deep and profound inner strength in order to work out your karma, to work your way through that labyrinth of tests that go on in life. You need to have a lot of inner strength. That strength comes from the core of your being. Please try and sit still. A lot of teachers, they teach just about opening the heart. What's great, yes, the heart is the key to enlightenment because it's the seat of love, it's the seat of joy. But how does it stay open if it's not grounded? If it doesn't have roots and foundation to keep it open? So that's the first thing. The second thing is spiritual energy. Spiritual energy is not some la-di-da kind of sweetness this is the most powerful energy in the universe. It's energy that's infinite by its very nature. It's energy that stems from the source of all creation. And this is the kind of energy we are trying to connect with so that we can grow spiritually. Well, how do you do that unless you have the strength inside yourself to be able to support that kind of experience? So that plus karma, plus then you have Kundalini, which is another powerful force. And it's a force that, I always say it could be very dangerous if people don't have the strength inside themselves to support the energy of Kundalini. So all of this is what's going on inside a human being. All of this meditation is about, frankly, it's not about lineages and all this bullshit that goes on, It's about building a system inside yourself that is strong enough to truly do those two things. Work out your karma in life, not hide out in an ashram or a monastery, but life is the temple. To work out your karma in life at the same time, to be connected to spirit. Both of these energies, higher energy and life itself, are extremely powerful energies. If we don't have the inner strength inside, it's almost an impossibility to work out your karma and to be connected to spirit at exactly the same time. Mm-hmm. So all of Rudy's meditation practice is about building an inner life that is strong enough to do this. Otherwise, people hide out. They go to all kinds of, meetings and this and that. But if they don't build that internal strength, forget about it. It's all too overwhelming. I say this a lot. In the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna finally reveals himself to Arjuna, it's as if the light of 1,000 suns suddenly appeared in the sky. Try to visualize that. It's a power beyond all human comprehension. And this is Krishna, who is the manifestation of God in that chariot, revealing himself to Arjuna. So this isn't some principle I made up or Rudy made up. It's something that's 500 million years old. And it's something very real, and it's at the very core of Rudy's teachings. He used to speak about it all the time. He used to beat my brains out with it, build a foundation, get strong, learn what I have to teach. And maybe I'm beating all your brains out. I don't know, because I talk about this endlessly, I don't want to beat your brains out. I just finally wanted to penetrate that if you don't do this, it's money problems, it's relationship, it's all the psychological crap that would go away if a human being develops that kind of chakra system. It would put all the psychologists out of business. All the psychiatrists would go right out of business. It would create a minor recession in America. All these people that manufacture drugs, they would go right out of business. if people would just learn to do this. But what can I tell you? You know, I'm here preaching to the choir.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. I mean, the answer to all this crap is so simple, but get people to do it. Oh, you worship idols, you're this, you're that. There's all this stuff, you know. This is the only way. Who knows the only way? Whatever works is the only way. There's no only way. Whatever works for a person is the way. And then you discover there's no way. Because as long as you think there's a way, you're not going to get there. You know? So all Rudy tried to do is teach all of us, hey, build a chakra system, build an inner life. Get strong so you can. I'll never forget when he came to Texas. I'll never forget that. When he said to me, you know, one of the great things I was always sad about, he was the one who said to me, Stuart, buy that building. You know, and I got $500 to my name. You know, anyone could do it with money. That was his response. I went, and a month later, I bought it was a shopping center, for God's sake. You know, and we had restaurant. I mean, he right after I bought the building, Rudy passed on. So he never really got to come down there to see what happened to that building. I mean, it was unbelievable what was going on, belly dancing clubs and, you know, I mean, you know, flamenco dance. It was really, you know, it was something that went on there. You know? And it was fun. I had fun. And it was a way of me finally being able to work through my Denton karma. Because after these things, there was nothing else I could do there, you know? How could I top myself? What I was doing there, you know, and but he never saw that. He would have loved it. He would have just gone. He would have just loved it. He said, "Stuart, this is unbelievable." I know, and I was doing it for him. I was doing it, you know. I mean, I built ashrams there, and they were for him. He came down there, Rudy. These are your ashrams. Go teach what you teach. You're a better teacher than me. And I used to do all this stuff, and it was all for Rudy. It's how I also stayed free of it and not attached to it. So what I'm saying, I'll never forget, he came down to Denton once, and I had bought one of these 40-foot, you know, trailer trucks, you know, semi, whatever they are, you know, and I was in the antique business, and I wanted to go up to the country and buy truckloads of antiques and bring them back to Texas. So I bought this semi 40-foot trailer. It's unbelievable. You know, and when Rudy came down, one of my students gets into it, you know, and, well, now that's growth. That was this, that's growth. I mean, it was, you know, that truck was more of a pain in the ass than anything I think I ever owned in my life. I finally left it in the parking lot of the ashram because every time I went out on the road, it would cost me thousands of dollars. You know? But I'll never forget Rudy. Now that's growth. He loved bigness. He loved people that were big people that weren't afraid to take chances with their life. He loved it. He was that way, you know. He was always buying another building and this and that. And, you know, he just loved that expression of creativity in life. Well, you need to be big inside to do stuff like that. You know, not where you're doing it strictly for greed and money and these crazy people that are worth hundreds of trillions of dollars. I mean, it's not that. It was being done to build a spiritual situation. It was, and it was another element. You would do it to learn how to surrender it so that you weren't trapped by it. You know, and Rudy loved that. I mean, he was such a kick. I used to, you know, get such a kick out of, you know, the things that he would get turned on by. You know. but it taught me an enormous amount. And this work is about not being afraid, building a system that allows you to live in this world and not be afraid of this world. Being connected to God and not being afraid of spiritual energy. And I'm kind of like that also. Look, I've simplified my life a bit. It's okay, but I've been through the rest. I have really been through the rest. And I don't need that anymore. I've done it. But how do you do I did all that, and because of all those things, I had to build a system that was capable of dealing with it without allowing it to suck me dry. And that's what I did. I dealt with all of it, that house in Texas, all of that stuff. Finally, I'll never forget seeing Bob Baker on a crane, putting the stupor on the top of I'll never forget that. I said, Stuart, that you're finished. That was the crowning moment when I realized I was finished with Denton, Texas. I had to go somewhere else and do something. I'll never forget it. I was watching this thing and I said, oh God, Stuart, you've done your job. You've produced this thing here, that nobody in the history of that town ever produced. Now you can move on, go to New York. They say if you can do it in New York, you can do it anywhere. So I went to New York, went back to New York. Instead of being a big fish in a small town, I was a little fish in a big town, and I had to, grow. And it was a test every single day of my life. But to do that, you've got to build the strength inside. And that's really what Rudy's work is all about. It's not about making money, and it's not about, what do you do? You drop dead one day and it spoils your grandchildren. That's what happens with it. It's about getting strong because of what life tests you with. And that strength is that chakra right below the navel, the chi, the power in a human being. And that strength enables you to open the heart and to live a compassionate life, to live a life full of love. And, I remember, Rudy, he told me, I don't know, 50 times that he was always embarrassed about being called a Swami. I said, why, Rudy? He said, that's something for India. Who's a Swami in this country? He told me this 50 times. And he had that kind of sense, but he used to wear the orange. He used to wear it when he taught classes, But it was wonderful, his humor about all these things and his recognition that everything is a trap except your connection to God. Everything, including being a holy man, a Swami, a saint. Remember that guy in Kathmandu had a sign on his cabin, I'm a saint.
Yeah.
Chris, that guy's saint.
Yeah.
Come here and find out about your spiritual, everything is a trap. And to get free of everything, you've got to have the power to let go, to experience these things and let them go. If you're a saint, you're never going to be enlightened until you surrender your sainthood. Whatever your position is, you got to let it go. Recognize, like Ramana Maharshi, his student, he would tell his students, ask yourself, who am I? It's the greatest question one can ever ask themselves. Because if you, what am I? I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm white, I'm black, I'm green, pink, yellow. I got this, ultimately, we're nothing. When all the masks peel away, when all the layers of the, whatever it is, peel away, we're nothing. We're nothing. The ego's gone. This is gone. Every image we have of ourselves has to be surrendered to God. How do you do that? You need the strength inside to do that. You need that foundation inside yourself. The building of that kind of inner life enables a human being to do it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Great question, Kenny. Question I've answered 400,002 times. But it always seems to be different every time it comes out. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Yes, Gabriella.
It's probably the same answer. It's just something I experience, and I was talking to a friend who's on a shamanic path, and the path doesn't matter. But I find that I sometimes in talking to her, and it doesn't matter if it's her.
Gabriella, ask me the question, please.
Yeah, I'm an empath, and sometimes it feels like this dark energy comes on me and I can get myself out of it. Did Stuart ever talk about anything like that? And I'm just building the system stronger.
Well, look, honestly, there is no dark energy. Understand, there are just things that are stronger than you that you can't deal with yet. And those things are telling you that you've got to build a stronger system inside yourself. And if you look at life that way, you discover these are not dark energies. They're just tests. Can I grow? Instead of being frightened by this and can I get strong enough to transform that energy into something positive inside myself? And
yeah, it doesn't scare me. It's what you said is really helpful. It's basically a test.
Well,
And that's a much better way to work at it.
I mean, every time I get a little tinge of depression, it's just do it. Bring it into the chakra below the navel, transform it. So what used to last when I was younger for months, literally months at a time, seconds, it's gone. Because I've spent years of my life building a system that can transform that negativity into just energy. Look, I talk about this a lot. The energy of God, the energy of spirit is neither positive or negative. It's just energy, Shakti. Right? It comes into a human being, and because of the very nature of the makeup of a human being, our weaknesses, our vulnerabilities, the energy becomes positive and negative. We transform spirit into positive and negative. And that energy will not be transformed into negative. We build a system. Please try not to drink, try not to move in the class. That energy, we can transform it as we transform ourselves. If we build ourselves inside, the energy stays pure when it flows through us. It becomes, adulterated because we are full of so much negativity. So a human being has to change.
Right.
And if we change, then that energy is just pure energy that nourishes us. And then that's what we give off to the world, that negativity, depending on our condition, is what we give off to life. So the job of this meditation is to transform ourselves inside so that when the energy of God, the energy of spirit comes into us, it doesn't transform itself into negative energy. And we can use that nourishment to continue to build a system inside that is strong enough to ultimately become spiritually enlightened.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Well, let me just finish this whole thing. I'm not telling everyone here to go out and buy $1 million properties and test yourself. What I'm saying is that incrementally, we have to build systems that are stronger. There isn't a person in this meditation class that doesn't have one test or another. And each one of those tests is an opportunity to build an internal life that is stronger. And it's a step by step by step growth. This way, as we take each step, it demands on us, but we get stronger because we are taking that step. I mean, it's like the pyramids. They didn't build the pyramid from the top down. I mean, it was like putting one stone after another into the pyramid, you know? And eventually it comes to the third eye at the top, you know? So do it incrementally, step by step. But don't be afraid to take that step. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, thank you. God bless you all. And as I always end this class, you know, I learned probably as much, if not more than all of you in these classes. So God bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being my teacher, demanding of me that I go very deep inside myself and grow. I think it's a very important, certainly a very important element in my life. And I have deep gratitude to all of you for just being present, being in the class, working on yourselves, and hopefully continuing to grow and try to grow incrementally. You know, I mean, don't try to eat an entire watermelon at once, you know, slice at a time, slice at a time. You know, okay. Have a good evening and God bless you all.
Night, Stuart. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Good night, everyone.